Hi, I'm Jasmine Batra.
As the founder and program director of the Big LEAP Accelerator, she works with forward-thinking business leaders to build their brands, achieve product market fit, and execute successful product launches.
Don't be so hard on yourself. Look at everything that didn't work out as something, an experience that was there to teach you something. Australia is a very blessed land. It's that no worries culture. Like, people are relaxed about things and generally have a really good attitude towards life. And if you don't have proof from people who are willing to put their hand in the pocket and give you money, that comes back to value creation. Not just to fail fast, but to reflect and see, what did this teach us? Necessity is the mother of invention. There's a lot of comfort. The more deeply founder who is solving a problem, they understand the customer. They may sometimes find the solution at first. You make habits and then the habits make you. You can't burn a candle on both the sides. The more lack of interest, keep that curiosity alive and go out and change the world. You want to bring things, people, resources together to create something which is better than what exists now.
Where big dreams meet bold action. Where we share real stories, actionable insights, and the inspiration needed to transform your ideas into businesses. Are you ready to turn your ideas into success and be an inspiration to others? Join Inspirepreneur.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Batra. I work with business leaders, forward-thinking business leaders who are looking to build their brand, grow, help them with getting their product market fitment right and product launches. I work with ambitious founders and entrepreneurs who want to make a bigger impact and help them play big on a global stage. I help companies to take that big leap. So I sit as a convener on the National Industry Group for the Australia-India Chamber of Commerce. I was actually reading about charisma and the different types of charisma. And they say that there is one type which is about the knowledge and the charisma, like people who have just such deep knowledge. And there are those who bring that level of energy. And for me, it's always been energy. That's what I get told, Jasmine. You are just full of positive energy. You light things up, and you are, just the energy field. And I feel that. I sense energy, and I check energy, and I know that all of this is just energy field, like that divine energy which plays out in different ways. So the best compliment I've got is that I just love your energy. Don't be so hard on yourself. I think it's important to always learn to see what you did wrong. But sometimes we get so caught into it that we beat ourselves up so much that it makes us stop in our tracks almost, and we then don't do, we are not ourselves. So for me, the best advice was to not be so critical, look at everything that didn't work out as something, an experience that was there to teach you something. So instead of saying, why did I fail in this? Why did this not work? Is what is this teaching me? What am I learning about myself, and what is this teaching me? And that has been a big, good advice for me, is that for everything that I look at, I examine it from that lens now. Australia is a very blessed land. It's that no worries culture. Like, people are relaxed about things and generally have a really good attitude towards life and the work-life balance, so as to speak. And there are a lot of opportunities there that the country presents in terms of doing things. One big advantage which Australia has is that it's so multicultural. You have people who have grown up in different countries, people who come from different cultures. Those people you study with, work with. And that is a huge, huge benefit. The big challenge that presents is that sometimes we get so comfortable. It's very easy to get comfortable. The minimum wages are one of the highest in the world. The cost of living, yes, we say it's a crisis at the moment, but when you still compare it to most countries in the world, we have a decent standard of living. And they say if necessity is the mother of invention, there's a lot of comfort. So the discomfort which is required to create something which is, challenges the status quo is not there, which is a disadvantage in some areas compared to a few other countries where they are constantly looking to improve. They have, in their day-to-day life, they are seeing so many things which are not right, which then becomes an impetus for them to create. That's why innovation, I think, while in Australia does reasonably well, but compared to many other countries in the world, we are very low in our index of our innovation. And we know that that's how human race progresses, that's how humanity progresses. And we are a small country, a small population. I mean, most cities have as many people as we have in our whole country, and that too, it's very spread out, which means that it's a smaller market. And if you are an ambitious business, you want to grow. Even if you win that entire geography, which is generally not possible because you will only have a product which works to a segment, there's limit on how far you can grow. That's one of the disadvantages. I also find that sometimes there is a disconnect between what the overall requirement of the market is, what the market needs, and what the different levels of government understand of that. And while there are many research papers, discussions, roundtables, that gap is still, in my view, from what I have seen, being close to that ecosystem, is there are still a lot of things lost in that translation of what is required at the local council community level, what is required at the state level, what is required at the federal level. And sometimes these organizations are actually competing against each other, and there's not a unified plan, not a unified structure, not a one comprehensive strategic direction of how or where we are leading. And that can create a lot of confusion, but also derail things which would have had a very clear track of going forward. Yeah, Australia is rich in many resources. Like if you look at comparing with other countries, there are some distinct advantages which Australia has, like critical minerals and resources, environment, climate, our ability in science and fintech. So much good research comes out of Australian research centers, Australian universities. These are huge plus points that we have. So capitalizing on those and seeing how we could collaborate with other startup economies, other ecosystems, to be able to create something which not only just solves a problem for our country, but as a full solution for the planet. And that to me is some of these three critical sectors will be those, anything to do with the critical minerals, the climate, renewable energy. And we know these are huge problems the world is facing. I mean, we can't deny these facts. And thirdly, the life sciences, the medical sciences. I also believe food, it's such an important part of being a human, the food we consume. And Australia has some good advantages. There are law, our regulation on packaging, our the way we farm food, the whole from farm to fork. It's very, some of the supply chain that we have here are very well laid out, and they could be used as an example with some other larger economies as well. So how do you bring those advantages? So ag tech, for example, is a huge industry, and we know that it's a requirement, it's a need of the hour. So agriculture, ag tech, how do you make farms more sustainable? How do you improve the yield of the farms? How do you make sure that you use less resources, less water to grow the crops? All of those things are insights which some of the technologies and farmers here have, which we could sort of share with other countries in the world to create, again, a healthier, happier, more nourished planet. They say that, to have a successful startup, you need to have a really good idea. You need to have a very good team, great execution, which comes generally from a really good team, and a very sound business model. And yes, those factors are really important. But if you think about it, just having a good idea does not make a great startup. There are so many examples of businesses which have launched having the same idea, where one sort of really is flourishing and the other tanks down. So it's not the idea, it's not even the execution. It's not that speed to market. People talk about that you should have the first mover advantage, and yes, that's important, but speed to market again does not guarantee success. If you are moving very fast but moving in the wrong direction, you're just getting to the demise closer. So and if you think about the business model, even that you need not have right at the start. Business model evolves as you grow. You take the example of Uber. When they started, it was just, you pay for the ride, there are all these, it's a marketplace, and you're working, the model is that you pay for the transaction, and you have access to a car which could be right next door, so which means less travel time, you get all the economies. And now they're launching memberships, so they say, become a paid member. So again, trying to make it like a SaaS model. So the models would change as the business evolves. It really, what I see, really comes down to having very clear value creation. What value are you creating as a startup? And that value you are creating by solving a problem that you see, or you are really getting understanding the customer, that obsession with the customer. I think the more deeply a founder who is solving a problem, they understand the customer, they may sometimes find the solution actually may lie right or left of where they were looking at, because the customer knows things really well. Talking of industry and just sort of giving an example there, I know two companies, similar industry, launched. This was the weight loss industry, and one of them scaled amazingly well. It was actually a women-led venture which did amazingly well. And the other business, again, same industry, weight loss, similar type of app that they had launched to track nutrition and calorie count and all. It didn't, they were able to raise money, but they couldn't survive after the first capital raise. So it's not really in the idea. It really is about how well do you understand the business. So this business that which did really well in the weight loss space, was focused on women who have just had a baby and want to lose weight. So it was a very niche segment that was picked. And again, the thing with niche, like people, you tell them that, who is the customer, that you are solving this problem for them. Weight loss applies to everyone, every race, gender, it is could be a customer. But knowing who do we pick and really understanding them and being narrow. They say your niche should be an inch wide and a mile deep. So the more deep you are with your niche, you can really make sure that your product really talks to them. And with this business, it was focused on women who've had a baby, want to lose weight. Now imagine what their thinking is this what I'm going to have safe for the child? Is it, if I'm breastfeeding, is that going to cause any issues? So all those things which a general weight loss product may not fulfill. And because you are niched, you go with that success because you understand the customer so well. And I've seen, I worked with the client in the earlier start of their journey and seeing that brand grow from just that to then rebranding to a healthy mummy, because then you are, you're working with the same customer and looking at how do you, make sure that you are yourself a healthy mummy. And generally, if you have younger kids, what is healthy for mom is good for the young kids as well. So you're almost like, addressing the entire family meals and meal planning. And to me, that's really a good example of how, as a business, you have to be obsessed with the customer, understand the customer really well. And even though you may pick a narrow niche, it is only where you're starting. You can always grow and extend and, reach more clients and more market segments. And businesses that don't, they try to be everything for everyone right at the start. One, they run out of cash very quickly. And two, their messages are so diffused that they don't land. And when you don't have that early success and brand advocates, then you're playing a losing game because, you will spend a lot more in your marketing and sales. You will, it's not a very effective way to grow. I think from my experience, what I have found by startups, which seem so good on paper, they fail. I think founders really underestimate what it takes to build a startup. And I understand the hustle culture, but I'm not completely convinced that that's the way, sometimes the requirement is such as that you have a main job and you've got a side hustle and you have to let it grow. And that's really good when you know that that's what it is. You are ready for a long game. But with side hustles, there is always distractions because that business is not yet making enough money. You see something else and there's another shiny idea. What I have seen why startups have failed is because they have that whole patience and diligence, patience and perseverance. You have to stay focused on that this will take time. And the other factor which I have seen causes demise of startups is not changing direction far too soon. I've in my 15 years of being in the startup ecosystem, working with founders, some who have gone and build global icons, and few who are on that journey who will get there, and many who were there but couldn't make it. One of the things I find is that a lot of them, and when I meet them at, say, networking events, they are just sort of plodding along and almost in a maze. I imagine it's a maze that they're going, or now I've changed, I'm building my app differently. And they're doing all these different things without really talking to the customer first. It's like I'm building all of this, building the technology, I'm looking for the CTO, I've got all these plans, improving their app without bringing customers on board. that is why businesses fail. If you don't have proof from people who are willing to put their hand in the pocket and give you money, that comes back to value creation. Are you really creating value enough for somebody to say, yes, I want that. Tell me how it is and where do I sign? Value creation is like, I think revenue follows value creation. If you're creating value, that's when revenue will fall. Meaning that people are willing to pay for what you have created, and they see that what they are getting is far more in value to what dollars they are paying for that. That's how you've created value, because you've solved something for them. But to be able to convey that value, a very clear articulation of that value proposition is something many businesses struggle with. And it's how you land that message, who you are, what you do in a short time span, that is really important. I mean, as somebody who's been running a marketing agency at Arrow Digital for over a decade now, even I struggled with, how do we define ourselves? Like, what is the value proposition? There are so many agencies. Why should somebody come to us? What is it that we have to offer? And to find out what really is that value proposition is a never-ending exercise. You can never say, I've got it, I've nailed it, that's it. It changes, it evolves based on who you're talking to and the timing, the market. The market dictates what is important to the market at one point may not be. We at Arrow Digital worked through our value proposition multiple times. Like sometimes a lot of clients came to us because they saw that we could really help them get visibility, help them build their brand. And if you focus on those elements that, this is how we define ourselves as a company which will make you visible, findable, credible. Those were some of the things that we knew we were doing. I also find a lot of the time value proposition statements, people confuse it with what is different. They talk about their features, and it's so inward focused. They don't think enough about what is it that the customer really needs. It is not about I do this, it's about do you think? I mean, to give a really simple example, one of the clients I worked with, they were company which was into home loans, and they were very specific niche on loans for people who had not so good credit history. And one of the things that we did as part of the entire marketing exercise was just really work on the copy from, we are the specialists for low doc home loans. We are ones who will help you with getting instant approval or quick approval of your loan application. To change it from we to are you, have you been knocked back by the banks? Are you looking to get a loan when you have been rejected previously, or are you self-employed and looking to get a loan? Again, changing that switch in value, defining your value as well, and your communication strategy makes a big shift, because people want to understand not the feature, it's the benefit, and it's talking to them. That's that language. Building a business means that you need to be in there for a long haul. And as they say, you can't burn a candle on both the sides. So if as a founder, you are the one constantly, doing early mornings, late nights, doing a whole lot on your plate and feeling exhausted, you're not going to bring the best. And you may do it for a period of time, but it's not sustainable. And that's why I say that if you are building a business, you have to take it very quickly from a startup to growth, to scale, to sustainable. And what do I mean by that? A startup, generally a founder, co-founder, a very small, lean, mean team, and you're just sort of proving the value proposition, getting your product market fitment right, getting some early customers. That's a startup journey. As the startup has grown to being an adult, and the growth stage is where you know that you have now enough revenue to be able to bring in more people. You are not the ones who's doing your BAS returns. You're not the one doing your social media clips and doing reels and stories and doing all YouTube edits. You've got people who are doing that for you. And I also want to actually draw a distinction here between growth and scaling. So when you're growing, meaning your revenue is growing and your resources are also growing almost at the same level. So your costs are almost growing at that same level as your growth is. I mean, a typical example, like our agency, as we grew, got more clients, we need to add more people in the team, bring in more specialists. So you are adding your cost base every time you grow your revenue. Then comes the scale stage. At the scale stage, the growth in cost is not at the same level as the growth in revenue, meaning with less cost you can really grow and scale. So you don't have to keep adding more people. Think if you've got an app, you've built the systems, so it's now the business. A scalable business is one where the business model is proven and it is a repeatable business model. When that is established, then the costs are not rising at that same speed. So you can really grow, and that's when the J-stick hockey curve sort of growth happens. That's what VCs and investors really look for, is when you can really scale the business. And a good test of a startup that has grown is when the test for me was always when the decisions are being taken without the founder. So if there are things that are happening where you are not involved and you know that it is being done to the best, and because you've got the teams which are doing that. So that's the journey of from startup to growth. And the quicker you can make that transition, the protected you are with your own self-care. The longer the road, the more draining, the more tiring, the more lack of interest, the need for doing something different arises, and the startup idea collapses. So in that way, trying to make sure that you do that. And I think the other really good message for founders in self-care is habits. I'm really very big on good habits, and I say that first you make habits and then the habits make you. It is simple things, simple rituals of whether it's time to yourself, it's meditation, it's walk, it's run, it's fitness, it's doing something which will feed your body, your mind, your soul. And understanding that that connection between all three is again so important. But knowing what are some of the good habits you can inculcate in yourself, in your people, in the team, that will ensure that you are in it for a long game. I mean, startup journey, building a business, it is hard work. It is, but it's very exciting and it's immensely rewarding if you have fun along the way. And the way to have that fun is when you fill your cup with things which excite you, which don't feel like work. And that's the best part, because you have made that choice to build a business. You bring those elements of fun, of play in it, so that it's not just, turning up to work and thinking, oh God, I wish somebody just gave me the money and I exit this business. Businesses that invest in building their brands, they are at a huge advantage, because then their journey from growing, scaling to being a sustainable business is so much more easier, because they get that advantage of customer loyalty, of customer trust, and they have earned it through promise. And then the market rewards them. We were working with two companies in the skincare brand. One of them being Go-To Skincare, which led by Zoe Foster, an amazing trailblazer women in business. We ran a short campaign for them, and they had launched a new product, this silk pillowcases, Burberry silk pillowcases. And we knew what the average cost per click was for to get people on Google who were looking for that product to come to the website. Being a business which was coming from, Google has something like an average cost per click, where this is how much it costs to bring a click. This brand was paying a fraction of what other companies in that space were paying, a fraction of that. Reason being the brand value that it had created. And they were able to get clicks at a fraction of a cost because of the value in the brand and the conversions. So if it takes 100 people to come to your site, 100 people come to your site, they click on the ad. Out of that, 20 people look at the product and 5 people buy. That's a conversion rate that you've got of 5% from the click. Now, in a case where the brand is so strong, the conversion rates just soar very high. So even though you may be paying, a little bit more or similar, your conversion rates are also much, much higher. So instead of 100 people coming to the site, out of that 20 browsing and 5 buying, your numbers change drastically. And that's what we saw with this brand was they were getting conversions at unheard numbers of 40% conversion, 55% conversion rate, 60% conversion rate. So that really makes the business so much more sustainable because they're not burning cash every time to get new clients. They have spent that in building the trust and community with their customers. And that's how you create a sustainable business from a market sustainability. But sustainability is also for the planet. Sustainability is for the environment, the carbon footprints that you're leaving behind. And as more and more awareness is spreading around that, it's having that understanding that how you are using the resources to create something which is not leaving carbon footprints in the business. So how are you making sure that you're offsetting that, whether it is through investment, through charity, through deploying your profits and divesting them into causes, whether it is reforestation or again clean and renewable energy. And most businesses, at least, and they have this mandate now of the corporate social responsibility to invest in that. So that you are a business that doesn't have that backlash and you're doing things which are right for the planet. That readiness check is really important, especially when you're going to go global and get out of or scale internationally. A good checklist for knowing when you are ready is first, proof in your local domestic market. You should have customers, you should have proven the business model, you should have proven uptake, you should know your numbers of your adoption rates, your churn rates. You really need to have that proof in your domestic country. If you can't succeed in your domestic country where you have all that advantage of the understanding the regulations, the network, it is going to be immensely hard to try and launch in another country. The second thing will be, as a checkpoint, is to see what's your runway and and by that I mean your own, like both in terms of capital and time. A lot of the times I have seen founders underestimate how long it takes and how much it is going to cost to scale internationally. It takes much longer. It is there will be a lot of things that will come out of the blue, like the geopolitical environment may change, the dynamics, the market dynamics change, and that adds additional layers of complexity, making it harder to succeed. So to know that buffer and create that before you launch is extremely important. I think as a founder, understanding what is it that you're bringing to that market. So one, it is why that market, so making that market selection to be a very judicious process. A lot of the times, I mean, to understand, it's not just a game of darts. It's not like you've got a world map and you're just sort of, it's not a game of darts. It's being really strategic about what is happening and which is your next first market. And I use this word very deliberately, your next first international market, because that could be very different from your other global expansion markets. But being really judicious about how you choose your next first global market is really important. It should be one where the synergies are easier. There is good, commercial engagement terms with that country. Hence, for me, when I started the Big LEAP program, it's just been so amazing that when I conceived the Big LEAP program, at that time, the Australia-India trade agreement had also not been put in place. So for me, I sort of felt almost a little bit like a futurist to be able to see where this or the whole thing was going. And I could see the opportunities that India presents as a market, as a startup ecosystem, and bringing that for founders in Australia. So when the Big LEAP program was launched, about 6 months after that, the Australia-India Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement was signed, which was just such an amazing thing. And now, over the years, there have been more economic treaties signed. There are a lot of MOUs in place. A new economic roadmap has been laid out by Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Now, that is a really good launch pad for a country to offer when it comes to international commercialization, because you need to be in a place where the law, the regulation, the level of support is available. Like when I take founders from the Big LEAP program to India, we get support from the state government to federal government to all different levels of tech hubs, because they're aware of the Australia-India trade partnerships and agreements. So that really becomes important in your selection, your first next market. I know for a lot of Australian companies, US has been the general route, and it is a good, we know it's one of the biggest, in terms of size, a biggest market, which is what you want to grow and really scale. The challenge is that it is far too big, and sometimes the risks of failure when you fail in a big market makes the business puts the business at a higher level of demise. It's just a failure because it is so risky market. So if you have had another market, this is what I say for Indian startups as well, Indian startups who are looking to scale and look at US as their first, international market, to consider Australia as the first test bed for their market, for a Western market. And Australia serves as a really good test bed market for startups who are, let's say, from the Asian region, from India or Singapore, who are looking to expand to the US. Australia has a huge advantage in terms of a really evolved startup ecosystem. There's people of different cultures, so you can really do those market testing and get some customer adoption, get some numbers, prove that your business works outside of your local market, and then scale internationally. One of the other factors I find why from a checkpoint in readiness is being very open to learning, and knowing that your present customer in your current market is not going to be the same as your future customer in an international market, because they are two very different. And it's not, so that's where a lot of founders I see make mistakes. They know that they've built a success, they've got a customer segment who they sell to, and then they would try to find the same market there. That's not how it'll work. Most probably, the chances are that your customer in the international market is going to be vastly different. It could be, and I'll give you an example. I was working with a fintech, and they were targeting individuals who want to keep their documents safe, and they want to do a transfer of their documents to known parties. And we found that it is not just finding similar people who have a higher who are looking to move internationally and need to put their documents in place, need to have their income proof all in place, and trying to find same people in another country. We found that it's what worked better was finding those who had partnering with somebody who had many such clients that you are after. That is a better way than trying to find individuals. So it's being that openness. And one of the things which I think we talked about earlier was the mindset. As a founder, the biggest make or break to me is about coachability and that mindset. I mean, I have a very simple way of when I decide who do I work with. For me, it is humor and humility. Like, it should be fun to be working, and humility is so important. Like, those people who think that they know it all are dangerous, because the world is moving at such a fast pace. You cannot know it all about everything. And founders who are okay to be challenged, who are, they're always ready to correct the course, they are the ones who succeed. And mindset plays such a big role. One of the really fascinating things I had learned was that when a plane is flying from point A to point B, 80% of the time it is off the course of where it is meant to be. And that seems scary, but it's always course correcting. And that's interesting because it knows the path it needs to follow. And that's what it is for a founder's journey, that you may not be exactly where you thought your path would be, but as long as you know where you're going and you're always checking and being challenged and correcting and learning, you will reach the destination. I was in Albert Park the other day. It's one of my favorite places, the beautiful lake and the ducks there, and just watching them. And one of the things I observed was that it is very rare that the ducks are actually in a row. When they are on that lake, they're swimming and they're paddling. These beautiful black swans, they are paddling down the lake, but it's not in a row all the time. They'll always keep moving, but they try and come back to that row. So people who say that, I have to start this. I know in startups land, they have so many things that they need to do, and they say, I'll come back to it when all my ducks are in a row. Well, that's a fleeting moment. That doesn't happen. Ducks will never get in a row. It's like you have to take the plunge, take the leap of faith and know that, okay, I'm moving in that direction. That's where I'm sailing to. And there will be times when things will not happen to plan, but I need to take that in stride and still move along. And that's why that mindset is so important, like that whole, learning, being kind on yourself, and surrounding yourself with people who are lifting you up, who have been there. Okay, I'm a really big believer in making sure that you are surrounding yourself with people who know what they're doing, and especially when you're taking advice. Like, there is my advice is not to take advice on directions from people who have never been there. So, and there is so many of that now, people talking about things that they have not done before, so failed businesses, and so many people who are talking about entrepreneurship who have not scaled to that level. To me, if you are a business, if you started something and you're the only one, you're not responsible for paying other people's wages, you have not yet built a business. Because when the pain comes, when you know that, at the end of the month you have this payroll, so you have to earn enough money. And that's how entrepreneurship is. It's about building resources. It's not about doing the work yourself, because that's a job then, So if you are looking at building that, as we talked about, from going from a startup to a business to a growth stage, you have to be able to multiply yourself and maybe have much more smarter people there. So I've been in the innovation and entrepreneurship space for over 15 years, and it's great when you sort of are nominated to different awards. I was recently nominated for the India-Australia Business Award, which was amazing, and sort of being felicitated by the different levels of government, from New South Wales government, Queensland government, and all of them have their own policies. So I was nominated I was a finalist for the Australia Today International Women's Day Award 2025. And it was just amazing to be surrounded in a room with women excelling in their fields. Like, this award recognized women from 18 different categories, from sports and arts and culture and films and media, and to just be in a room with women who are excelling in their fields. And as a woman, it is twice as hard to to make an impact and be seen. And if you're a woman of color, well, the odds are even more against you. And we know that it is not yet a level playing field. In fact, in some ways, you feel that, we're in 2025 and we've regressed in many ways. But when you see that energy in the room, when you see the women being recognized, it's just amazing. So this award happened at the Grand Hyatt in Melbourne. And just that energy of that room and the place. I mean, Grand Hyatt is a great location, great facilities, great staff and team, which make it even more special. And there were dignitaries from the government, from the state government, and the Consulate General of India was there as well. And yeah, it was great to be part of a celebration in this month of March, which is all about recognizing and celebrating women and their achievements. It was amazing to have to be named the winner for the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Award, which was just felt really humbling. I have had the privilege of working with some amazing women right from the very start. Like, some of my biggest client success stories are women who have created businesses which could just be treated sometime as a hobby business, but they could see the value and the potential, and they put everything behind it. They backed themselves up to create something which is really bigger. Like one of my very early clients was Katie May, who was on the board of Seek and was looking for to just a birthday party, organizing a birthday party for her daughter, and could find that there wasn't a one place where she could just go in and say princess birthday party, animal birthday party. And she ended up creating what was earlier just a directory to then becoming the portal for everything that mums need and the place where mums go, to eventually getting a tap on the back from News Limited for a $45 million exit. And those are the things that really excite me, is women who have gone in and built and created ventures. One of the amazing women I work with in the travel space, and this is, I'm talking 2012, they were the only agency which was selling tickets for space. So this is, and now of course space travel is going to be the next thing. She was inducted in the Hall of Fame, Penny Spencer from Spencer Travel, and talks the enterprise that she's created around making travel easy and stress-free. It's a lot of women who I'm currently working with, a woman in fintech who has created a platform which is for businesses who are sophisticated investors, or just those who invest in the stock market and want to maximize the return of their stock portfolio. And she's done it in a really smart way, in a way to empower retail investors to be able to do that, those who don't have access to the wealth managers and wealth funds. Laura, yeah. This culture of fail fast, somehow I'm not totally convinced is the way. In my view, it has to be about learning. It has to be about making changes, seeing what worked, what did not work, and not just to fail fast, but to reflect and see what did this teach us, what did we learn, and again going it back to, is it the product? Is it the product market fit? Is it the marketing? Is it the messaging? It's understanding what are the levers we have, so that you're learning from it, and it's not just failing fast, because if you just want to fail, there is multiple, there is no end to it unless you have reflected. And I say this to my team as well, that I'm okay with you making mistakes, but don't make the same mistake twice. So there should be something that you learn and something that you should be able to share with others so they will learn. So there is one thing to learn from your mistakes, but there's another thing to learn from others' mistakes as well. So keeping that into account. And just seeing and being clued in the startup space to see what is happening. A lot of media is around people who've raised the money and the Series A or Series B funding, but don't get so caught up in that. I mean, there is many of the companies that if you go back and check who were in the news for having raised multiple rounds of capital may not exist anymore. Many of them fail. Many of them run out of cash, or just always try to find the right product market fitment and keep iterating and not getting to where they can really grow and scale. So it's important to know. That's why that basics, back to basics, is customer obsession. Understand the customer that you are solving for and understand everything about them, so that you can really create something which they value. So one of the really interesting facts when you look at the different startup economies and the countries and how they play in the global economic index of complexity to do the business, how the support that is available, and there are all these reports like GEC reports which give some really good data in terms of the countries and how easy it is to grow and scale. You learn a lot from that, because they have compiled several data points from government incentives to the policies to the sectors. And like right now, I know, for example, in India, fintech is a huge thing, and a lot of funding has gone to that sector, and that's also one of the indications of where, where money is flowing, tells you where that direction is. So that presents an opportunity for Australian companies which are in that space to look at, okay, who we could partner with, collaborate with, and look at that as a market. And it's the different maturity levels. I mean, India is absolutely at a very advanced level when it comes to fintech. I mean, I have talked about this in many seminars and events that I run about India's unified payment interface, the UPI that India created, which was based off the bedrock of the identification system, where India created the first biometric identification system by way of Aadhaar card, and then linked that to the payment system. And now the banks, which have that KYC thing of know your customer, a lot of that now is being linked and done digitally, where they have each person is identified through their Aadhaar card, and their phone number is verified, which is then linked to their payment system. I mean, and we are talking payments, not business to business payments. We are talking peer to peer payments, which is another level. And making, I know I was talking to somebody on a flight, and she had come from Europe, and she was saying people are very hesitant about giving their bank details to another person, and in India it's just all on a tap. So it's very advanced. And then coming up with Ayushman Bharat, linking the medical records, which also is another level of making the health sector as really a growth area. And then, of course, something new which is going to come is the ONDC, the open network platform, where India is trying to make it all open e-commerce, which is totally another level of e-commerce. And e-commerce in India is super advanced. Like, everything can be delivered within minutes, so again, a lot of things for people to learn there in terms of digital payments, e-commerce, fintech, medical and health. And I believe, and I'm such a strong believer of, why should you waste the human race time? If somebody has already created something in another country which you can complement, then why to compete, and why should you be just in your own silos creating things when you could collaborate together and go to market quickly and really get people that advantage of that product? And that's what I love about the work I do, is to help that cross-country collaboration, is to help bring the founders together, bring the policies together, try and bring that the advantages and what has worked in one ecosystem to see how it could apply to another ecosystem. And as a tech-based business, that's a huge advantage. I mean, if you are solving a problem which has a global application, then why restrict yourself to just one country? And the way to scale is when you go beyond one product and one market. It's when you expand those product lines and markets, that's when you're able to really create that impact. So I moved to Australia 20 years ago, and when you come to a new country, you're all trying to find your feet. First thing is that I hope I can get a really good job, and that's really good. You definitely need something to pay your bills, but we live in a very exciting times. And my advice to all the young people out there, whether you are born and brought up here or you've moved from other countries to this beautiful country, is to keep that bug alive of creativity and curiosity. There are so many things that as young people they can see which others just accept as a way of life. So you can challenge old beliefs and patterns. And don't just think about, I'm getting a TFN. You can get an ABN. Be an entrepreneur. Be responsible for creating a venture and and building something, because that's where that whole creative outlet that you seek gets that nourishment. In any business, any corporate, you're siloed. There are certain areas that you are cut out for, and that's what you do, and that's good too, and is the right path for many people. But to me, having that entrepreneurial mindset is that you don't accept things as they are. You want to bring things, people, resources together to create something which is better than what exists now. So keep that curiosity alive and go out and change the world. So to me, building a business is a huge leap of faith. And when you're looking to take it internationally, it adds a whole new layer of complexity. And to me, that really takes, a lot of conviction, and it is a big leap. And that's how I named my program The Big Leap. It is for businesses who are looking to play it big on a world stage in a way which is guided, which helps them validate that market and commercialize it to success. And I work with founders in the Australia-India corridor primarily, who are looking to test and validate in the market and commercialize and really solve problems for the things which have a real impact. It really is about helping them commercialize in a new international market and help them scale and play it big on the world stage. That's what I help and do, is help companies build global businesses and play it really big on the world stage. I see a lot of people who talk about entering new markets, and they have never built businesses there. Maybe they have taken a holiday and that's all they know about that country. And to me, that makes me worried that, you really want to work with somebody who understands the markets very well. And that's why I feel I'm so uniquely positioned. I built a startup in India. I was a co-founder of an employment platform which was named the top 10 platform by the Economic Times in India. So I understand the startup space there. And I have been an entrepreneur here in Australia for the last 16 years. So and I have worked with a lot of businesses, helping them grow, build their brands, scale. And understanding the cultures is just so important. I think we underestimate how much knowing the culture, the value of that plays in expansion. So I feel I'm so uniquely positioned because I understand both the markets well. I've built businesses and I can really help them to take that big leap and make sure that they land safely